Moses and the Commandments, a deep dive into the biblical narrative. The story of Moses and the Ten Commandments is one of the most influential and foundational narratives in the Bible, shaping both the religious and moral frameworks of many cultures around the world. The Ten Commandments, known also as the Decalogue, form the basis of the moral code that not only influenced ancient Israelite society, but also continues to play a significant role in Judaism, Christianity, and even broader Western legal traditions. Moses, the great leader, prophet, and lawgiver, stands as a central figure in the Hebrew Bible, particularly in the books of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. His story is marked by moments of profound faith, divine revelation, struggle, and covenant-making between God and the people of Israel. The giving of the Ten Commandments is one of the most significant episodes in his life, as it represents a pivotal moment in the relationship between God and his people. In this text, we will examine the life of Moses, the circumstances surrounding the giving of the Ten Commandments, and the lasting impact of these laws on the world. We will also explore the themes of divine law, covenant, and faith that permeate Moses' story, and how they are relevant to both ancient and modern contexts. The life of Moses, from deliverance to lawgiver. The story of Moses begins in Egypt, where the Israelites had been enslaved for several generations. According to the book of Exodus, the Israelites had grown numerous, and the Pharaoh, fearing their strength, decreed that all male Hebrew children should be killed at birth. However, Moses' mother, Jochebed, placed him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile River to save him from this fate. Moses was found by Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son, raising him in the royal household. Exodus 2, 1-10. Moses grew up in Egypt, receiving an education and enjoying a privileged position. However, his awareness of his Hebrew heritage led him to an act of defiance when he witnessed an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave. In anger, Moses killed the Egyptian and fled to the desert of Midian to escape Pharaoh's wrath. Exodus 2, 11-15. It was in Midian that Moses encountered God in a miraculous way. While tending sheep on Mount Horeb, Moses saw a bush that was on fire but was not consumed by the flames. When he approached the burning bush, God called to him, commissioning him to return to Egypt and lead the Israelites out of bondage. Exodus 3, 1-10. This moment marks the beginning of Moses' role as a prophet and leader. After much resistance and hesitation, Moses returned to Egypt, where he confronted Pharaoh and demanded that he let the Israelites go. This began the dramatic series of events known as the 10 Plagues, which culminated in the Israelites' miraculous deliverance from Egypt. The Exodus itself was a defining moment in Israel's history, marking their transition from slavery to freedom and establishing Moses as the divinely appointed leader of the nation. The giving of the Ten Commandments. After the Israelites were freed from Egypt and crossed the Red Sea, they journeyed through the wilderness toward the Promised Land. Along the way, Moses ascended Mount Sinai, where he received the Ten Commandments from God. This event is one of the most iconic in the Bible and is described in both the book of Exodus and the book of Deuteronomy. Exodus 19, the covenant at Sinai. Before the Ten Commandments were given, the Israelites camped at the foot of Mount Sinai, where God called Moses to ascend the mountain and receive instructions. God made a covenant with the people of Israel, declaring that if they would obey his commands, they would be his treasured possession, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Exodus 19, 5-6. The people of Israel agreed to this covenant, and Moses went up the mountain to prepare for the giving of the law. God's presence was made manifest on Mount Sinai in dramatic fashion. The mountain was covered with smoke, and thunder and lightning accompanied the sound of a trumpet, signaling the majesty and holiness of God. Exodus 19:16-19. The people were told to consecrate themselves and to stay at a distance, for the holiness of God was too great for them to approach directly. Exodus 20, the Ten Commandments. It was at this moment, amid the awe-inspiring display of God's presence, that God spoke the Ten Commandments to Moses, and Moses conveyed them to the people. The commandments are recorded in Exodus 20, 1-17, and are as follows: You shall have no other gods before me. The first commandment emphasizes the exclusive worship of the one true God. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image. This commandment forbids idolatry, urging Israel to avoid any physical representations of God. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. This commandment addresses the sanctity of God's name and forbids blasphemy or using his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. This commandment institutes the weekly day of rest, marking the seventh day as holy and a day for worship and reflection. Honor your father and mother. This commandment calls for respect and obedience to one's parents, promising long life in the land as a reward. You shall not murder. This commandment forbids the taking of innocent life. You shall not commit adultery. This commandment addresses the sanctity of marriage and fidelity between spouses. You shall not steal. This commandment forbids taking what belongs to others. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. This commandment forbids bearing false witness, particularly in legal matters, protecting truth and justice. You shall not covet. The final commandment addresses the internal desires of the heart, prohibiting covetousness toward a neighbor's possessions, wife, or anything that belongs to someone else. These 10 laws form the ethical and moral foundation of God's covenant with Israel. They provide clear guidelines for how the Israelites were to live in relationship to God and to one another. The 10 Commandments are not only rules for personal conduct, but also a blueprint for a just and harmonious society. The role of Moses as lawgiver. Moses' role as lawgiver is central to his mission. He was not only the leader who brought the Israelites out of Egypt, but also the mediator between God and the people, receiving and delivering the divine laws that would govern the nation. Moses' encounter with God on Mount Sinai, where he received the 10 Commandments, was not just an individual experience but a communal one, as the laws were given for the entire people of Israel. Moses' leadership extended beyond the delivery of the 10 Commandments. After receiving the laws, Moses also received detailed instructions for the construction of the tabernacle, a mobile temple where God's presence would dwell among his people. Exodus 25-31. These instructions further emphasize the holiness of God and the need for the Israelites to maintain purity in their worship and their lives. The 10 Commandments, their significance and lasting impact. The 10 Commandments, as given to Moses on Mount Sinai, are much more than a list of prohibitions and obligations. They represent a covenant between God and Israel, a promise of God's protection and blessings in exchange for the people's obedience. The commandments reflect the character of God himself, his holiness, justice, and mercy, and are meant to guide the Israelites in their relationship with God and with each other. The covenant and the concept of law. The 10 Commandments were part of a larger covenant between God and Israel, which was marked by the giving of the law. In ancient Israel, the law was seen not only as a set of rules, but as a means of establishing a relationship between God and his people. The law was a gift, intended to bring about a just society and to protect the people from the destructive consequences of sin. This covenantal relationship is further elaborated in the book of Deuteronomy, where Moses reiterates the laws to the new generation of Israelites as they prepare to enter the Promised Land. Moses reminds them of the covenant they have entered into with God and the blessings that will come from obedience and the curses that will come from disobedience. Deuteronomy 28. The universal impact of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments have had a profound influence on both religious and secular thought. In Judaism, the commandments are central to the practice of the faith, and in Christianity, they continue to serve as a moral guide for believers. Even in modern secular societies, the principles behind the commandments, such as the prohibition of murder, theft, and false witness, are enshrined in legal systems around the world. The 10 Commandments also played a crucial role in the development of Western ethical and legal thought. Many of the values found in the commandments, such as the sanctity of human life and the importance of justice and truth, have been incorporated into the laws of modern democracies. The commandments' emphasis on human dignity and respect for one another laid the foundation for the development of human rights principles in the modern era. The relevance of the Ten Commandments today. The Ten Commandments continue to be a touchstone for moral reflection and ethical behavior. In an age of relativism and moral ambiguity, the commandments offer a clear, timeless standard for how we should live. They remind us that our relationship with God is foundational to all other relationships, and that living justly and ethically is not just a matter of personal preference but a divine imperative. As individuals and societies face complex moral dilemmas, the Ten Commandments remain a powerful reminder of the moral values that form the bedrock of human dignity and flourishing. Whether in personal life, family dynamics, or governance, the principles of love, respect, and justice that the commandments advocate continue to resonate across time and culture. Conclusion: Moses and the Ten Commandments occupy a central place in the history of God's relationship with his people, and in the moral and spiritual development of humanity. Through Moses, God gave Israel, and through Israel, the world, a vision of how to live justly and righteously. The Ten Commandments remain a foundation for ethical behavior, offering a timeless moral compass for both individuals and societies. The story of Moses, from his miraculous deliverance as a child to his role as lawgiver and mediator of God's covenant, is a testament to the faithfulness of God in guiding his people. The Ten Commandments continue to shape the moral landscape of our world, inviting us to live in obedience to God's will and in harmony with one another.